Today on Bridge City News, the premiers of Ontario, Saskatchewan and New Brunswick announced a deal today to use small nuclear reactors as a means to reduce carbon emissions. The governor of the Bank of England is going to be changing jobs. Mark Carney will be taking on a new role with the United Nations. And Russian officials say at least 19 people have died after a bus plunged off of a bridge in eastern Siberia.
Your nation. Your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Paul Arthur.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. For the sixth time in 7 years, Lethbridge College has been included in the top 50 ranking among Canadian research colleges. Lethbridge moved up 3 spots from last year to 47th place. Associate Vice President of Research Dr. Kenny Korskaten says the college also placed very well in some individual categories among medium-sized colleges, including 8th spot in the number of research partners and 11th in the number of completed research projects. Hundreds braved the freezing cold in Calgary yesterday to protest government cuts outside the Alberta United Conservative Party's annual general meeting.
Everybody knows that cuts are painful and cuts may happen, but the difference is, are you burning down the kitchen or are you making adjustments? And I think right now they're just burning down the kitchen and thinking they can just rebuild Alberta the way they want. And I have not found an Albertan that said, we hate our province. We like our province. We think it's doing great. I don't know why Kenny's trying to scare off investors. Investors don't want that. So we have a lot of people who are really angry because no one's being listened to, and I think that's the biggest message. But obviously cuts, that's what we're going to talk about, because that's something someone made a choice of. They sat at a desk and said, we're going to cut 500 people, and we're not going to tell you when or how or where. We're going to make everybody scared.
I live on $16.85 a month, and according to Jason Kenney, it's not onerous to cut that back. And if he cuts the $16.85 a month, I won't be able to survive. Yeah, it's freezing cold. It's a long walk for me. I can't walk that far, but I can't just sit idly because there's other people on AISH that physically couldn't get here.
These cuts directly affect me. Like the cuts to the U of C, we're losing professors, our tuition is going up, the interest on student loans is going up, education is already really expensive. Depending on what the next couple years bring, I don't even know if I'll be able to finish my degree.
It began with the announcement that 700 registered nurses and registered psychiatric nurses are going to lose their jobs because of this government. But they weren't done, because just a couple of hours later, another letter was delivered, this time to the Health Sciences Association of Alberta, and they were told that another 1,000 workers would be losing their jobs.
Meanwhile, speaking last night to UCP members, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney urged cooperation and not confrontation from public sector workers facing budget cuts.
Our approach is soft-hearted but hard-headed. Now, let me say a word, an important word, to the good folks who work hard delivering our public services. Albertans respect the work that you do, as does this government. We want to empower you to create a high-performing government that delivers services more efficiently, reducing internal red tape, empowering frontline workers. We also want to challenge you to help us find reasonable savings in what is the biggest spending and best-paid public sector in Canada. Albertans have told us that they will not accept or pay higher taxes. They know that the best way to balance the budget is to grow the economy, and that higher taxes will further stifle rather than create jobs and growth. Albertans refuse to risk our future by sinking this province in a sea of red ink. This government we do not want to lay off good people in our schools, hospitals, or public services. And we will work hard to minimize the labor impact of this 2.8% modest reduction in spending. And so we ask the government unions, work with us constructively to find savings. In some cases, this might mean moderating pay or benefits that folks in the private sector do not enjoy. I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. It certainly does not mean 8% salary increases that some union leaders have demanded in an economy where private sector incomes are down 8% over the past 5 years.
Earlier at the meeting, UCP members showed overwhelming support for measures that would give Alberta more autonomy from Ottawa, including establishing its own pension plan, tax collection agency, police force, and firearms watchdog. Kenney says he will discuss the possible measures with his fellow provincial leaders at tomorrow's Council of the Federation meeting in Toronto. That meeting will try to shape a collective agenda for their relationship with the federal government and is expected to focus on the carbon tax, the new federal environmental assessment legislation, and amendments to the fiscal stabilization program. The premiers of Ontario, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick announced a deal today to use small nuclear reactors as a means to reduce carbon production. At a meeting in Mississauga, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe said small reactors would be a meaningful action to address climate change. The three provinces signed a memorandum of agreement to develop the use of what are called small modular reactors.
Today we are joining as premiers and provinces to look towards the coming decade and beyond to advance the development of zero-emission small modular nuclear reactor technology. Implementing small modular reactors will provide meaningful action in reducing our carbon emissions in electricity production while providing affordable baseload power to our communities and to our industries. To this end, I am pleased to join with Premiers Ford and Premier Higgs to sign a memorandum of understanding to support the early stage evaluation, the planning, and the commercialization to further develop small modular reactor technology options for our provinces, our nation, and the world.
New Brunswick Premier Higgs maintains that nuclear power has a high safety record and can be used globally. Well, there will finally be an Arctic University in Canada. This week, the Yukon legislature passed a bill to make Yukon College a university, making it the first institution in the territories to grant a degree under its own name. The university will continue to offer degrees brokered through Southern institutions, as well as its own programs focused on sustainable resource development, climate studies, and Indigenous governance. Indigenous content will be part of every course, and all graduates will be required to master it. The Canadian man who has been the governor of the Bank of England is getting a new job. Mark Carney will be taking on a new role as the United Nations Special Envoy on Climate Action and Climate Finance. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made the announcement while speaking to reporters in Madrid, Spain today. Carney was due to step down as bank governor early next year, having already extended what was meant to be a 5-year term. In the wake of Friday's deadly terrorist attack on the London Bridge and the fact that the suspect had been released after serving less than 7 years of a 16-year prison sentence for terrorism, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is vowing to end the practice whereby serious offenders can be automatically let out of prison early. Johnson says those convicted of a serious terrorism offense should face a mandatory minimum sentence of 14 years. With a national election on December 12th, the most recent polls show the Conservatives ahead of the Labour Party with margins ranging from 6 to 15 points. Russian officials report that at least 19 people have died after their bus plunged off of a bridge into a frozen river. Another 21 people are injured. An initial investigation indicates a front wheel on the bus, which had 43 passengers and a driver on board, burst as it was crossing the bridge over the Kuenga River in eastern Siberia's Zabaikalsky region. Russia has one of the world's worst records of road safety, with over 18,000 accident deaths last year. 21 people have been killed after a gun battle between suspected drug cartel gunmen and police in a northern Mexican town near the Texas border early this morning. The gunmen drove into the town of Villa Union in a convoy of pickup trucks and began shooting at the mayor's office. Security forces responded in a battle lasting about an hour. 6 police officers lost their lives in the clash. After about 2 weeks of relative calm, thousands filled the streets of Hong Kong today for another day of protests. Parents with young children joined hardened activists in black outfits, demanding more democracy, an end to the use of tear gas, and an investigation into the use of force to crack down on the 6-month-long anti-government demonstrations. Officers in riot gear fired pepper spray and tear gas in some areas, while protesters dug up paving stones and threw them in the street to try to slow the police down. Recapping one of our top news stories, the governor of the Bank of England is getting a new job. Mark Carney will be taking on a new role as the United Nations Special Envoy on Climate Action and Climate Finance. And a look at weekend weather. Partly cloudy skies tonight with a low of -3, with a southwest wind gusting from 40 to 60. For tomorrow, clearing late in the morning with a west wind gusting from 50 to 70 and a high of +3. As Canadians, we appreciate having universal health care, but when we compare our Canadian system to other nations with universal health care, it seems that we aren't getting the proper bang for our buck. Bacchus Barua with the Fraser Institute has the details coming up next. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. It's the 28th annual Mayor's Christmas Concert on Saturday, December 7th at the Southminster United Church, beginning at 7 p.m. Enjoy your favorite Christmas carols performed by the Lethbridge Community Silver and Gold Bands with special guests École Agnes Davidson's senior and junior choirs. Come take part in this annual tradition and bring along a donation in support of the Lethbridge Food Bank and Interfaith Food Bank's Christmas Hope campaign. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit lcbs.yapcity.com. Make Christmas special for a child in need. Center Village Mall Toy Mountain is accepting donations of new unwrapped toys until December 20th during mall hours. All toys will be distributed through the joint efforts of the Christmas Hope campaign. For details, visit christmashope.ca. Plus, come for the arrival of the big guy himself, Santa Claus, at Center Village Mall on Saturday, December 7th at 11 a.m. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.